Hello, my name is Roberto Abalito, and this is my internship final reflection presentation for the Professional Communication and Leadership Graduate Program at Georgia Southern University. Today, I will provide you with a description of where I conducted my internship to include my assigned responsibilities, projects I participated in, as well as any problems I encountered during my tenure at the Fort Stewart Mission Training Complex. I will also discuss my organizational analysis of the Fort Stewart MTC. More specifically, I will cover how my responsibilities helped it accomplish its mission and any lessons that I obtained. Finally, I will review my proposal predictions against the actual application of the skills I acquired during the PCO program. As a small caveat, because of the sensitive nature of the work that is performed at the Mission Training Complex, I will be speaking in very broad technical terms to minimize spilling details on the highly classified data that is used at the facility. The Fort Stewart Mission Training Complex is located at Evans Army Airfield outside of Fort Stewart, Georgia. This town is known as Hinesville, Georgia. The purpose of the Fort Stewart Mission Training Complex is to train military commanders and their soldiers to more effectively synchronize on large battlefields. This is done through the use of complex computerized simulations of communication and battle systems. The center uses the Virtual Battlespace 3 simulation systems, which is the Army's newest generation of gaming software that offers fully interactive, three-dimensional training in a premium environment that is suited to train anywhere from individuals to small unit training. It can be tailored to teach these elements how to practice their troop leading procedures, types of dismounted and mounted missions, as well as other types of insurgency tactics. I was hired as part of the risk management framework team and helped maintain the facility's security classification that enables the use of the data used to create those simulations for training. The simulations are run on hardware that must be carefully and routinely inspected for possible vulnerabilities. These vulnerabilities may be exploited by entities that may wish to harm the United States. While working with the RMF team, I have had the opportunities to work on a variety of projects. First, we were tasked with transferring our systems from one server management software to another. At the beginning of the year, we used Windows Server 2012. This is Microsoft's proprietary software used to create and configure different virtual machines. Virtual machines are essentially computers created from a pool of shared resources. They exist as logical computing instances composed of processing power and storage in centralized locations. For example, if a new employee was hired and they needed a new computer, we would spin up a virtual machine with exactly the amount of processing power and software needed to perform their job. We would not need to give him or her a dedicated powerful computer. Instead, we would assign her a low-powered computer capable of connecting to the main servers and subscribing to the assigned virtual machine. Microsoft Server 2012 handled these tasks, but it did not do so exclusively. It also handled all of the other regular desktop functions. These make the systems very resource-intensive to run. If the underlying processes failed, it could cause all virtual machines in a domain to fail and result in security breaches in other system areas. Our task was to replace Windows Server 2012 with VMware. VMware is a dedicated virtual machine manager. It does not need to run on top of any other operating system. This makes it more efficient and reliable than Microsoft Server 2012. This task required the collective teamwork of all 4 team members. We were all assigned by our leaders to different domains in the facility. We were asked to create new partitions in the existing storage spaces and install new software. Once installed, we needed to transfer all of the management functions to the VMware terminals. This needed to be done in coordination with all the other team members to make sure we were not shutting down systems that were needed by the training teams. We worked during off hours and created redundant virtual machines to maintain the availability of the critical systems. This task took us about 2 weeks to complete and was able to be accomplished without any interruption to critical systems. We also worked on preparing the facility for inspection. At random intervals throughout the year, the facility is audited to make sure it meets all of the prescribed security guidelines. Our team was tasked with reviewing the facility against these guidelines for the past year. These required reviewing hundreds of documents and making sure that the changes were actually performed. They included modifications to group policies, software updates, and organizational policy implementations. For example, we had to check to make sure certain hardware systems and certain ports blocked and that the respective data and inspecting mechanisms were up to date. In other areas, we reviewed all of the employee accounts to make sure their privileges were in line with their job descriptions. We also identified and modified accounts that were supposed to be inactive. These accounts can pose a serious security risk, as if they can be discovered by bad actors, they can be used to exploit the organization's resources. During the organization's transfer from Windows Server 2012 to VMware, we encountered several issues in both technical and personnel fronts. First, we discovered that some of the hardware was not fully compatible with VMware's capabilities. Certain features, such as the rapid virtual machine scanning, was not supported by the storage technology already in place. The storage access speeds would have been slower using VMware when compared with Windows Server 2012. We created a report detailing the issue and presented it to management. It was ultimately decided that we would consolidate certain sections of the hardware and configure them to run solely on Windows Server 2012, while the majority would run on VMware. This course of action led to the targeted increase in the availability of our systems, though not to the extent we originally intended it to. During the procedure, we identified a VMware knowledge gap between certain team members. The more senior members knew the systems well and could input commands rapidly. The less experienced members, like myself, performed the tasks slower and performed more mistakes. This led to a decrease in team productivity as the less knowledgeable members caught up. These deficiencies were also noted, and a plan was developed to address them after the system implementation. The newer team members will be assigned distance learning classwork on the new software and were given an hour daily to complete the coursework. This alleviated some of the anxiety caused by the team members' unfamiliarity with the system. During the audit presentation, we encountered issues with the paperwork left behind by the former teammates. While the majority of the annotated changes were performed, and most systems were in compliance, the notations were not clear enough. For example, when a team member makes a change to the system, they're supposed to annotate the date and reasoning behind the change. This system provides accountability in case the annotated change causes an undesired effect. We overcame this challenge by reviewing the changes in the server system's logs and determining the reasoning behind the modifications. We then made the appropriate notations and created a document that standardized the change annotation process. The purpose of the Fort Stewart Mission Training Complex is to once again train military commanders and their soldiers to more effectively synchronize on large battlefields. This is done through the use of those complex computerized simulations we discussed in both communications and battle systems. This facility is able to do this from anywhere, simulating a battle scenario spanning a couple of kilometers to multinational conflicts. And I support this mission by making sure that the systems are up and running to their max effectiveness and that they're free of vulnerabilities. I've learned many lessons and I have acquired a lot of skills working for the Mission Training Complex. First, on the technical side, I have been exposed to systems used to manage large-scale organizational needs. Among these are Windows Server 2012, Tenable, used for scanning vulnerabilities, Linux, and the aforementioned VMware. These software suites are used to create, configure, and manage the virtual instances used to run the simulations and train the soldiers. I learned how to update all of the systems and to configure accessibility settings for all of the equipment. I also learned how to perform deep vulnerability scans on all systems and create baselines for their performance. Finally, I was given an opportunity to obtain my official CompTIA Security Plus certification. This certification is earned after demonstrating mastery of various cybersecurity concepts ranging from group policy management, encryption protocols, and cryptography. I also had an opportunity to work with a group that, while prescribed a traditional leadership structure, performed as a flat hierarchy. I was always treated as a peer by my upper level management despite having considerably less knowledge and experience in the field. From the beginning of my tenure, I have been under very little supervision, direct supervision. I've simply been given a task and asked to provide a progress report at certain prescribed time periods. This autonomy has given me a great deal of flexibility and has motivated me to work at my best, as I was provided with a clear understanding of my role's importance. I have also gotten a chance to work around a large group of military veterans. They work within different teams, ranging from trainers to network engineers and facility coordinators. These personnel are older than the ones I was used to working around and bring a different set of perspectives. Many are retired after 20 plus years in the military, and some are former children of military personnel. They all understand the importance of the organization's mission and work fervently to ensure its success. Before participating in this internship, I predicted that much of the material that was taught in the professional communication and leadership degree track would be immediately applicable. For example, in my technical writing course, we were taught how to use the Madcap Flare software to create organizational manuals. The software allows you to create instructional materials catered to the specific task a person has in an organization. While I did not personally perform this task, I observed as another team member used the software to implement the newly created standardized vulnerability annotation guidelines to the facilities handbook. Coded into the software, the team member is able to implement it into any of the technologically oriented manuals as needed. This makes the training process faster and more efficient. During our plain language writing course, we learned of the importance of adhering to federal guidelines when writing professional documents. I use many of the prescribed techniques when I help draft the annotation guidelines. Among these are making sure my writing was directed at a technically trained audience, writing concisely, and using a layout design that made it easy to read with short sentences and foregoing the use of excessive type fonts. The material covered in our Organizational Communication in Diverse Contexts course was also extremely helpful. In it, we explored the different leadership structures and techniques we might encounter in the workplace. Specifically, we learned to analyze organizations through the 4-frame model of leadership. This model allows you to evaluate an organization based from the structural, human resources, political, and symbolic viewpoints. The structural frame is largely concerned with how the organization is commanded. The Fort Stewart Mission Training Center is largely a top-down organization. All instructions are driven by divisional goals and adjusted to support the individual unit's mission. The human resources frame allows me to examine how the organization empowers its employees to do their best work. The facility accomplishes by employing what they call mission command. It involves communicating a shared understanding of what the mission is and assigning each employee a task with clear left and right limits. They're also given enough headroom to operate in a manner which they see fit. In return, gives them autonomy and self-development opportunities. The political frame allows us to identify how competition affects the organization. At the Fort Stewart Mission Training Complex, this manifests as employees look for company-sponsored professional development opportunities, such as the certificate that I was allowed to take. These can cost hundreds of dollars and are paid by the organization. They are, however, limited, and employees must justify their need to have them. In this regard, decisions by management are normally based on seniority and the upcoming training mission set. Finally, the symbolic frame helps us identify the organizational components that reinforce its vision and motivates employees. The Fort Stewart Mission Training Complex assists in a couple of ways. First, the facility is flooded with regalia that shows its support for the U.S. Army. There are challenge coins, flags, vehicles, and pictures with commanders and their soldiers. Second, there are routine ceremonies where employees are honored by the commanders and upper management for their efforts. They're given certificates and recognized publicly. Finally, the site follows all military ceremonial guides. When the Fort Stewart post is closed, the site closes and the employees are not required to work. Unfortunately, due to the spread of COVID-19, I was not able to employ the lessons I learned during my PCO research course. I could, however, see how the knowledge I gained could be implemented. Every 6 to 8 weeks, the organization receives vulnerability reports. Some of the items identified recur at seemingly random intervals. I believe these occurrences are tied to the type of training that is being conducted at the time. For example, if we're hosting a unit who's conducting training requiring a large battlefield simulation. We will encounter more data errors due to memory constraints in the computer systems. These memory crashes could cause a potential vulnerability that could be exploited to bring down the systems. Given more time, I could have compiled all the data, found a correlation to the training, and drafted a plan of action during those times. During this experience, I got a chance to observe some of the many leadership attributes I learned about during my degree program. My direct supervisor, a network engineer with 22 years of experience in the security field, demonstrated empathy, patience, and humility on more than one occasion. For example, recognizing that I lacked the knowledge and experience that many of the other team members possessed, she shared her own experiences coming up in the trade. She explained that she also started with very little practical experience, but through discipline and consistency, she was able to reach the level of expertise she has now. She is the subject matter expert in every facet of the risk management framework. She demonstrated patience while I adjusted to the tasks and caught up my skill set with the organization's needs. More importantly, she never lets her accomplishments place a shadow over the team. She considers each and every one of us important pieces that support the team's and the organization's mission. My upper level management excelled at presenting a clear vision to the teams. Each Monday morning we would meet and discuss the upcoming training events. The plans will be clearly laid out and the supervisors would ask facilitative questions to make sure we all understood the communicated intent. I also observed how they handled employees' issues with certain workplace policies. Instead of dismissing them, I noticed they placed close attention to every word said and provided feedback as needed. As the COVID-19 epidemic spread, I witnessed how they used transparency to provide us with routine updates on the organization's plans to protect us and a clear operating picture during those times of uncertainty. This made everyone feel more at ease. As I was studying for my Network Plus certification, they shared motivating words and provided me with materials to help me succeed. This made me feel like they had a stake in my success and bred a greater sense of loyalty within me and my teammates. For the past 10 years, I have served in the military as an M1 Abrams tank systems maintainer. I have served my country proudly and with absolute loyalty through 5 deployments and a multitude of training exercises in different roles. This is not, however, where my passion lies. I have been passionate about information technology field since the age of 10. I have been building computers ever since I was a small boy and obtained a Bachelor's of Science in Information Technology. Until this internship, however, I have not had the chance to apply my skills in a professional setting. This internship has given me the opportunity to do just that and combine them with the leadership and communication skills I acquired from the PCO program in my years in the military. I now feel more confident in my ability to communicate professionally on a variety of different mediums and with people of different backgrounds. As discussed, I have acquired vital technological experience that will translate well into my career as a future cyber operations officer in the military. I can now effectively probe for vulnerabilities in an organization and create strategies to harden old systems as needed. I can do this using high-level software and configuring complex hardware systems. Most importantly, this has been my first taste of a civilian-style job in over a decade. I had reservations about adjusting to a less rigid leadership style, but found that my military mindset translated well to the sector. My management appreciated that I was always on time, ready to work, and treated all tasks with the urgency and importance they deserved. I want to take this opportunity to thank all my professors for their wonderful instruction. This has been an extremely rewarding experience, and I am thankful for having had the opportunity to work with such dedicated and professional individuals. This concludes my presentation. Hail Southern!